Welcome to the Paul Harrell program. Today on the show, we're going to talk about how they're not going to make pennies anymore. Actually, no, just joking. That's not really a major story at all. We're going to talk about H1-B visas, what President Trump said to Laura Ingraham, also the 600,000 Chinese immigrants for our colleges. We're going to talk about that, as well as what is going on right now in the middle of the fracture we talked about yesterday between MAGA and now the Democrats piling on with leaking these new Epstein emails. And we're going to talk about all of that and much, much more today on the show.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Rob Spencer. Rob, good to have you, sir.
Not as always, but I try to be here whenever I can, of course.
I mean, it's a normal show, is what I'm trying to say. We also have Eric.
Yep, we have Eric Haynes in studio with us. Glad to have Eric with us. Of course, a lot of topics to talk about today. If you see the headlines about these H1-B visas, we are definitely going to talk about that. But as conservatives, we cannot gloss over the fact that the liberals have found their shiny object right now, and this is this Epstein crap. And I I thought that Trump handled this incorrectly earlier this year, but at the same time, now I'm kind of like, okay, are we still talking about this guy? Like, I mean, get the people that get. Anyway, I could go on about it.
Well,
Maybe
we're going to
have
plenty of time to talk about it because I'm pretty worked up about it as well. Mixed feelings. I totally agree with what you said. We would not be here had it not been handled the way. The predominant question about the Epstein situation is why? Yeah. Why was it handled that way? And there's potential answers out there, speculative answers, and none of them I don't think are good.
Paul, and maybe Eric, you'll agree with this. I think if they would have just eaten the frog, just eat the frog early on, and it would have. What do you do when you're a prosecutor or a defense attorney? You give the worst part about your case first, right? And so if you're about to release these files, or if you know that the groundswell is coming to release these files, then just eat the frog. Eat, that's a business term, guys. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about there, but it's just like do the worst thing first. Eat the frog first, and then in your day, and then the rest of your day is going to be productive. But if they would have come out and said, yeah, apparently there's these emails addressing all of this stuff. I can tell you this. I found out that Jeffrey Epstein was this, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like whatever. Address the elephant in the room.
But he didn't do that.
He didn't do it.
Called it a hoax.
And so now what we have is the Democrats post government opening back up right here, or at least it's imminent. They're taking a beating because they kept the government shut down for all these days for nothing. So what do they got? All they've got is Epstein.
Yep.
Epstein. And you see all the dang comments, on all social media. You just see Epstein, 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 and that's all they have. And if they would have just eaten this frog months ago, it would what would they have right now? Yeah. Now they would still be trying it, but it would be fault.
Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't have MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, all of this. When you look at Twitter or X, you look at the X feed on everything. It is new emails have come out. Like that's all they're talking about. The leftists.
I know.
And it's Trump is to blame for it.
There's no getting around that. Eric, you having a good day?
Having a great day. Great to be part of the
straight
conversation.
from the hospital.
You're
in the scrubs,
buddy.
Yeah. It's an important night. Speaker Johnson needs 217 votes tonight to pass everything through to reopen the government. And unfortunately, because there's not an actual message for the Democrats on health care, other than let's just throw $1.5 trillion of good money at a bad situation and not fix anything, that this now becomes the Epstein conversation, and might as well dump some emails and make everything look worse than it might be.
And you also have to remember that this is going on at a time where we have the news that there may be these massive grand jury, overarching conspiracy theories, grand juries assembled in Florida at the beginning of the year. You at least have to talk about the idea of if people and again, I'm not holding my breath, but if there is still a chance that these intel oligarchs face justice, it would be within the deep state's interest to say, okay, let's just make everybody as corrupt so nobody cares. Like it's if which in many cases they all are corrupt.
Yeah.
But you see
like
the point.
you're trying to say, like if you have mud on you already, just sling mud on everybody else.
Yeah, that's
and we're all just muddy pigs.
It's exactly one potential reason why this is all going on. But let's still talk about this, because this is the point of the beginning of the show. Before we get to Epstein, we're going to get into Epstein again. This was disappointing. Obviously, disappointed Hercules. You guys remember Kevin Sorbo? Did you guys watch Hercules growing up? Yeah, the adventure. Did you not watch Hercules, Rob, growing up?
I did, yes. And
Okay.
so, but honestly, I think Xena, Warrior Princess, was a better.
I wonder why. I wonder why.
It was a spinoff, and
it was better.
That made me feel a certain type of way.
Yeah.
I appreciated that show more than Hercules, and so I'm thankful for Hercules for that spinoff.
Kevin Sorbo, he tweeted this.
He's a great conservative.
What an atrocious thing to say. This will cost Republicans the midterm. What is he talking about? He's talking about this interview with Laura Ingraham. Listen to this.
There's never going to be a country like what we have right now.
And does that
the
mean
Republicans have to talk about it, Laura.
And does that mean the H-1-B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we
a
have
country
plenty of talented people
no,
here.
you don't. No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have. You don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, "I'm going to put you into a factory. We're going to make missiles."
That's not what she's saying.
How did we ever do it before?
Well,
when you and I were
I'll give you an example. In Georgia, they raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. Making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing and very dangerous. A lot of explosions, a lot of problems. They had like 500 or 600 people, early stages, to make batteries and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this. You can't just say a country's coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant, and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years, and they're going to start making missiles. It doesn't work that way.
First of all, there's just so much there, but I'll say this and I'll let you guys respond. I heard that last night, and I was just really disappointed, to say the least. Trump 2016 said the opposite. He criticized H1Bs, and that's why this is understandable that people on the right are very upset about this. They should be. I've seen posts saying, if this were like a 2016 candidate, Donald Trump would have laughed this guy off the stage for saying something like that. And then you have the other question, respectfully, which is why do people from foreign countries need to come to America to build our missiles? It's one thing to talk about batteries. It's another thing to talk about our missiles. And so, I think there's deals that have been made with China and other, I think there's other economic, like some of these economic investment deals are tied to H-1Bs. And again, I wish if that's true, he would just say that. Look, this is the deal I made. Anyway, I'll let you guys respond to that, and then we've got another clip. What are your thoughts on that?
Did you see Scott Bessent's response this morning?
Yes. Okay, that's important. There is a clarification. So to try to do damage control, because
because that's
exactly what this is.
He did a lot of damage just now.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, we did a whole show with our friend Jacob Holloway, who is he's in the tech industry, very well versed in this H1B scam. I mean, and he went into pretty big details about how it's just being abused, multiple jobs. They get around the system, and then they sell dowries. They end up selling to Indian families to take their daughters from India to move here because they want to live in America, and then they make these poor families then pay these ridiculous dowries so their daughters will come to America. It's really sick and immoral, with the whole arranged marriage thing. But I digress. This is Scott Bessent earlier today with Brian Kilmeade trying to clean up this mess.
There's 20, 30 years we have offshored precision manufacturing jobs. And the president's point here is we can't snap our fingers and say, you're going to learn how to build ships overnight. We want to bring semiconductor industry back to the U.S. There are going to be big facilities in Arizona. So I think the president's vision here is to bring in overseas workers where these jobs went.
Who have skills.
Who have the skills, 3, 5, 7 years to train the U.S. workers. Then they can go home. The U.S. workers fully take over.
So do you understand the concern that people have? Hey, an American can have that job. Why you give it to a guy from India
But an
or
American
China?
can't have that job.
So it's specific skills.
Because we haven't built ships in the U.S. for years. We haven't built semiconductors. So this idea of overseas partners coming in, teaching American workers, then returning home, that's a home run.
You know, if that is true, if what he is saying is true, I mean, this country is really in a bad way.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. You know, we used to send our military generals to lesser countries than us to train their troops and how to fight, you know what I mean? And we were this, you know, if that really is true, I mean, America really isn't great right now at all. I mean, that's...
Well, I mean, so here's let's just boil this down to the meat and potatoes. It's two analogies together there that don't go together, but you just deal with it. Trump is saying H1-B visas need to be administered because we don't have enough skilled people for certain positions here, which is a complete 180 from what he said. How long ago was this? Well, it was 2016, but let's just be honest. He said this very recently when he said that he was going to say $100,000.
Yeah, that was Howard Lutnick and him. Yeah,
correct. And so someone, after he announced that it's going to be $100,000 for these H1-B visas, after that, someone got in his ear and said, "Oh no, we can't do this and that." Now, I don't think that they're padding his pocket. I just don't think that he is. I don't think that he is enticed by money. In that respect.
Yeah.
So it's not like, hey, no, we got to do this or whatever. But someone with influence has gotten in his ear and said, we need a physician from India. Okay. Now, I know a physician who is from India. Great guy. Absolute great guy. As a matter of fact, I would go to him. Okay. But can those positions be filled by physicians that were native-born Americans that probably deserve and would get and garner a little bit more per month, you know, in terms of their salary and all of that stuff? I'm not really sure. But that's my opinion. Is like, my gosh, man, you have to fight to get into med school. You have to be halfway
smart,
you know. Yeah, I guess for lack of a better way to put it. And so, do we have to have these people? What the three of us know is that you can hire someone from a different country who was making pennies on the dollar wherever they were. They come to America. They make half what a native-born American would make, and
a third party takes the rest.
Correct.
The headhunter.
It's like an employment service, right? And even if it's not the rest, even if it's just a 25% of what's left, the hospital or the company or whatever saves money because now they have a physician who was cheaper than someone who went to medical school here locally. Now, I'm not in the medical field. I know you are, Eric, but I'm looking at this, you know, maybe a little bit naively, but I can tell you this. You can't convince me that we have to have a physician or a tech person or, you know, any of these other, like you can't convince me that we have to have them from another country to be able to survive.
To be able to survive.
Yeah.
And I think there's enough people in America that are willing to go through harder times right now so that we're not the demographic destruction of America doesn't happen. And to your point, the people in his ear, I think, are tech bros. I think it is the tech industry that really have his ear on this and saying, no, you know, we've got to continue the status quo. That's what this is. This is the status quo.
What percentage of the population is India for the world's population?
It's large.
It's large, but I don't think it's 78%.
Right.
Right. And if 78% of all H1-B visas are coming from one country, there is rot there.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about in the system. There is rot
there's something
that is
going on.
happening. There is funneling. There are people that are getting rich. All of this stuff. So I
think what you said is excellent, Rob. The idea that we're being told as a country, because I just said, hey, if that's true, this country is really like on the brink of total collapse, which we may be. But what you're saying is it's really hard for you to believe that we could not survive as a nation with the people that we have here. I mean, what kind of demoralizing message is that? No, we don't have the talent.
Yeah.
We don't have the talent. What are you talking about? Like, that is, I don't know, that's something akin to Jimmy Carter when everybody was, and I hate to compare him to that, because Jimmy Carter was a terrible president, but when everybody was struggling and had the gas lines and everything else, Jimmy Carter comes out and tells it's the American people's fault. He says, hey, there's this great malaise that's come over the country, and basically puts the blame on us not being optimistic enough. Mm-hmm. This was very reminiscent of that, even though I wasn't alive back then. It's very reminiscent of that. Here's Trump in 2016.
Well, first of all, I think, and I know the H1-B very well, and it's something that I frankly use, and I shouldn't be allowed to use. We shouldn't have it. Very, very bad for workers. And second of all, I think it's very important to say, well, I'm a businessman, and I have to do what I have to do, and it's sitting there waiting for you, but it's very bad.
He's being honest.
It's very bad for business in terms of, it's very bad for our workers, and it's unfair for our workers, and we should end it.
So this was the moment in 2016, guys, when, the Republican Party growing up was always for big business and big corporations. And, of course, the Democrats were hypocrites because they were for big corporations too. But you would ask the average person and the unions and the Democrats are for us. This was the Republican Party in 2016, 2020, and 2024 becoming the party of the working man, replacing the Democrats as the party of the working man. That's why it resonated the way it did. That's why he was so popular. And so that's another reason why people, if there's anybody out there that are like, man, I just don't, I don't want to criticize Trump. This is a legitimate beef. And I'm not shying away from it, because here's the reason why I'm not shying away from it. I think his entire presidency and his administration moving forward, like, if you keep contradicting yourself like this, you're going to lose the midterms. You're going to get impeached. Adam Schiff is going to be, rubbing his hands together because he's going to be the chair of some committee that we all have to listen to Anderson Cooper or Wolf Blitzer tell us is, like a morally superior committee that's it's going to be. I just can't take it. And so, not to mention it'll hurt any prospects of actually holding the Intel oligarchy accountable. With the Justice Department. So that's why this is a big deal. That's why I'm sounding the alarm about it, because somebody, whoever's in Trump's ear, Susie Wiles, whoever, this is insanity.
Well,
that's what I got.
I think there are big economic principles, supply and demand issues that are going on that are influencing comments like this. And I think when I look at different industries, when I talk to business owners, what I see in the healthcare system every day is shortages of a lot of things. Any business owner you talk to these days, you're going to say, is it easy to find folks for the jobs that you have? And unanimously, what I hear is no, it's really hard to find good people these days to do this stuff. So from a precision manufacturing, which if Scott Bessen's correct, and I'm not saying that he's not, if we haven't done this before, it's going to take a little bit of time to ramp that up. It's principles like Mike Jobs talks about all the time when he talks about vocational schools and the areas in labor-intensive jobs where we're not putting enough focus as a country. We do a lot of things really, really good. We got a lot of amazing farmers. We got a lot of really good things that we do really well in this country. But I'm not so sure that semiconductors and other high-precision manufacturing jobs are those things. And we have to acknowledge the fact that we need to give these people time to ramp up and to hire people and train the right people and have expert people training them. The best nurses train the classes of girls of people going through the nursing system and nursing school and guys and girls going through nursing school to be the best and mentor them through that. And so that's why I just think that there must have been some sort of a real come to Jesus moment here about our economic status and supply and demand of these people.
Well, to your point, I mean, if we had offshored all of our farming and, for the last 50 years or whatever, we wouldn't know how to feed ourselves. I mean, again, I get Bassett's point here, trying to clean up what Trump said, but it's it is really it's just really frustrating, and I think it goes against everything he's run on.
Well, and I also think it goes against what he said a month ago or 2 months ago, whatever that was.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the issue.
Pick a lane, stay in that lane. Don't.
Yeah. It's too much. It's bifurcated. It's just too contradictory. So, but Charlie Kirk, kind of on this issue here. Let's throw this up on the screen, shall we? This was Charlie Kirk just not too long, a couple of weeks before he was assassinated. People are looking at this in light of what Donald Trump said on Laura Ingraham as kind of a blueprint to save the country. He says, "This is the social compact breaking down. We need urgency to restore it. Mass deportations, stop the H1-B scam, dramatically reduce legal immigration, end chain migration and the visa lottery, build 10 million homes for Americans, crush the college cartel." Obviously, the sixth one there is the one he's familiar with because he was on college campuses all the time. People are all pointing to this, on the X sphere and everything else as, again, hey, and again, what's fascinating about this is here's a guy, Charlie Kirk, could have walked into the White House pretty much any time he wanted and could have told President Trump this very thing.
You can pick up the phone and call him at any time.
Yeah. And we don't have that anymore. And if you look at right now, what we talked about yesterday, the fracture between, Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, and everybody on whatever side you're on and in the middle or whatever, you look at somebody like Charlie Kirk and you're like, wow, was Charlie Kirk the guy holding the MAGA movement together? And I think he was. I really think there's
I think you can get, it's kind of like
hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, it's kind of like when, LeBron James wins the NBA championship and all that stuff, and then they start talking about the GOAT because you become a creature of the moment. Mm-hmm. And I think that we are there. We are a creature of the moment right now where we're just at a pivotal time where, Trump was reelected, and this was a great thing. My God, I can't even imagine if Kamala would have won.
Of course.
Right. And she couldn't even imagine losing. If you listen to her recent interviews, she was just shocked by it. And I believe her. I believe what she's saying is that she was genuinely shocked, even though all of the polling was saying this is the best that Donald Trump has ever polled. So anyway, so we had this groundswell of save our country. Now, we've had some major disagreements with the way that Trump has handled some stuff. I have some personal feelings about the illegal immigration roundup. I differ from a lot of conservatives about some of that stuff. Now, the other thing is, the Epstein stuff. That was fumbled. It was I don't know that it could have been fumbled worse. And I don't think he could have handled it any worse. And now what we have is, in my opinion, a contradiction. Really stifle and put a cold water on these H1-B visas we need them because Americans can't do the job. It sends a terrible freaking message to all conservatives. Was Charlie Kirk the glue that was holding us together? I don't know, but I can tell you this. I think we're a creature of the moment feeling like, hey, I wish that we had Charlie, and since we don't have Charlie, these things are going wrong, and if we did have Charlie, this would not be happening. I believe that he had influence with Donald Trump,
and a lot of people behind the scenes. I think we're finding out he also had a lot of influence behind the scenes.
Sure,
that we didn't.
I just don't know that he had enough influence to change what Trump did with Laura Ingraham.
Yeah,
say,
I get your point there. Yeah.
I don't think he had that much influence.
Yeah. He certainly was able to represent the younger generation, that sort of thing. And I'll add one more. Oh, go ahead. You want to respond to that?
Well, I think Charlie represented the best of us in a lot of ways, And I don't think that the best of us are currently representing us in Congress and in government.
I agree with that.
That's a great point.
And that's why he was such a city on a hill for so many young people and rose above the nonsense that we're talking about today within these different personalities, and they're now infighting and trying to prevent and trying to get everybody back together. And to Rob's point, it's just we've got to pull everybody back together and have some transparency around these issues, because the Trump campaign was really based on that, and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and others said a lot, and Tulsi Gabbard said a lot of really, really sincere things, and we believed them. And like I said yesterday, sincerity is the name of the game in politics, and most of us didn't consider Kamala Harris, to your point, Rob, a sincere person or a sincere candidate. We certainly didn't see Tim Walz or any of the others in that campaign as sincere people.
No, I don't know.
We had a tough time.
I've become good friends with school shooters. That was sincere.
We had a tough time not being smug and just constantly hypercritical, because they gave us so much ammunition to be able to do that. But
such a good point.
I don't know that the best of us are representing us right now, and that's what we've got to get back to, really and pull things back to.
Well, I mean, Mitch, as best I know, Mitch McConnell's still drawing a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I say drawing a paycheck and not working, but he's drawing a paycheck, because I don't know
Falling
how that dude is. Dude is.
Yeah.
It's like Joe Biden.
And I'm not making fun. I'm just saying, like, you don't need to be in charge of voting for things that affect the American people when you are literally freezing, because you've got some sort of, and he's not the only one, man. Like they're, everybody talks about Nancy Pelosi, she's finally retiring and all that stuff. And I'm like, at least her brain was still sharp.
Yeah.
Her brain was sharp still, and we've got a lot of people who've been in government way too long whose brains are not sharp. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to say I'm the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm not trying to say that, but we've got it's the geriatric nursing home in the Senate, especially. Yeah. And so, to Eric's point, and he may have been trying to go down a different road, but this is where my brain goes: is we don't have the best of us being represented.
No, and I'll take it a step further with one of the best Joe Rogan podcasts I ever saw, and I wrote it down on a Post-it note, and I've always kept it beside me over this past year since I heard it. And he said, "Hard times create hard men. Mm-hmm. Hard men create soft times. Soft times create soft men. Soft men create hard times." We're now around soft men and hard times. Mm-hmm. Men and women, as it relates to those representing us in the House and Senate. Yeah. And that quote really stuck with me, because we really are there, and we're trying as husbands and fathers and as citizens and conservatives to try to raise the next generation to be better than we were. And we're in a situation where we can't promise that to our children that things are going to be better off than it was for us. And it's a sobering reminder that we have to work really hard every day to reset and recalibrate.
It's so spot on. And I don't know what that quote is. I feel like I've heard that quote about other people, but I love it in a diagram, because when you see it, a visual diagram of who creates this. Weak, low testosterone, liberal men who wear, women's rights shirts and all of that stuff. My wife is the most important woman in my life, bar none. She knows that, biblically speaking, I am the head of the household. Okay, and that's she yields to. If we have a disagreement about something, I feel strongly about it, she feels strongly about it, then it is my judgment. That's ultimately what it is. Now, so they say that men are the leaders, women are the heart, right? But when you have a liberal man who is letting the woman be the leader,
Preach.
Okay? When the woman is being the leader, then what it leads to is weak men who cannot stand up for what is right. Are we the best? Do we make mistakes? The three of us sitting at this table are fallible beyond retribution here, right? I mean, we are, well, not retribution, but we are fallible. And what we have here is, I completely agree with Eric. We have a scenario right now where are the strong leaders? Mm-hmm. And our strongest leader, our champion, Donald Trump, is flip-flopping on some stuff. And I don't like it. Mm-hmm. I don't like it because there are millions of people who voted for Donald Trump because he is no BS, can't be bought. He believes what he believes, and he's not going to change. Someone's gotten in his ear, and it ticks me off. Mm-hmm. It ticks me off because if that's what you were going to say about it, if that's where you were going to be on these visas, then don't come out so strong against them and now try to say that Americans, you went so hard against Americans. Kevin Sorbo is so right. Mm-hmm. You went so hard against Americans, and it's frustrating.
Yep.
And is that going to be the thing that loses us the midterms? I don't think so, because who it really upsets were people that were going to vote for Republicans anyway.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's a long time. It's a long time between now and the midterms, and there's a lot of stuff that's going to change. But to your point, yeah, I'm extremely frustrated by it all. And that brings us to this next point, right, which is the Epstein situation today. Earlier today, we had the Democrats who've been looking, at the House Oversight Committee. They've been looking at some of these new Epstein revelations. And this guy named Kyle Cheney says, just in, House Democrats release a 2011 email from Ghislaine Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein discussing Trump's time at his house and labeling him the dog that hasn't barked. The email specifically says, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim, so this is the redacted portion, right? So this is a redacted victim, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. So everybody's been running with this particular email. Oh, my gosh, they're talking about Trump being the dog that didn't bark. The issue with that is the redacted name, and even Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said today, the redacted name there is Virginia Giuffre, who committed suicide earlier this year, okay, who now, by the way, is no longer around to address this controversy that she's been brought up about.
Correct.
From
it's
the
amazing how she's not here.
But she is on record multiple times saying that Donald Trump did not do anything to her. That, yes, they met, but Donald Trump never did anything inappropriate with her. So the Democrats released this email with a redacted name, knowing who it is. It's Virginia Giuffre. Once you know it's Virginia Giuffre, then you realize, oh, hey, yeah, she exonerated Trump from any wrongdoing for a very long time, and that's been public knowledge. So the GOP Oversight Committee says, why did Democrats cover up the name on the name when the estate didn't redact it? It's because the victim, Virginia Giuffre, publicly said she never witnessed wrongdoing by Trump. So this is the game that they're playing.
Yep.
Right as MAGA is divided, in some sort of back and forth or whatever, and the government is supposed to open back up. Midterms are less than a year away. This is all they got so far. This is all they got. This is what, and we're going to have to deal with this for a very, very long time. And then again, Technofog, who's a good follow, is basically corroborating what the GOP Oversight Committee is saying. But here's the thing. This is where I'm at right now. Rich Barris, Democrats are now starting to selectively release emails from the Epstein files. Because he did not listen at the time, it's going to look really bad for Donald Trump. Fair or not fair? Because what I just described isn't fair. But this was easily avoidable. Wait until you hear what Democratic staffers are preparing. So they're preparing something even worse than what they're doing now. And for whatever reason, and this is the question really of the show for me, is why? Like, why was there a pullback? I think now, in hindsight, going back and looking at those Truth Social posts where Trump said this is a Democrat hoax, likening it akin to the Russia hoax where they did frame him for treason, the reason, people speculate, okay, well, the Democrats planted evidence in the files. And if they're going to get released now, the House is now trying to release them. The New York Times is reporting that Lauren Boebert was called into the White House with Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel. They're reporting. Now, whether or not it's true, I don't know. Trying to get Lauren Boebert from Colorado to take her name off of the petition to release the files. Lauren Boebert allegedly said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Good.
Same with, I think, Nancy Mace. So there are Republicans, that want this stuff out there. But I guess the question would be, like, if it is some altered evidence, and again, that's just speculation, but people have put that out there. Again, eat the frog. Come out and explain it. Instead, you call it a hoax, when for 15 years ago, there were whispers about Little St. James Island. There were whispers about Epstein. And then we were called conspiracy theorists. And then it got a little bit more mainstream. Alex Jones is a big reason why he was talking about St. James Island before anybody was.
Yeah.
Then it was mainstream. Then you had politicians talking about it. Then you had this little explanation for maybe why. Here's a little explanation for why. Most of our politicians go to government, specifically Washington, D.C. They come back with excuses. And we had an answer why. Oh, maybe they're being blackmailed. Maybe they're being blackmailed because they got into something because of character flaws, and now they're being blackmailed. And now it's all a hoax. And that's why, Trump's saying it's all a hoax. There's a significant portion of his base that will never, ever buy that, because we heard him talk about it. We heard other people talk about it. And, we heard Pam Bondi this year say they're on my desk and walked all of that back. It's a complete embarrassment. And so now they're going to come out and do what Democrats do. They're going to be completely unfair. They're going to lie, because that's what they do. But there's enough fertile ground there to grow some really fast-growing grass that, isn't substantive, but you're going to convince enough people that it is true. And it already has happened. There's so many people that already are convinced. Donald Trump's in the files. Donald Trump is a rapist.
Well, he's in the files. We know he's in the files.
Yeah. I mean, like, he's implicated of a criminal act. Is what I mean.
Trump 1.0 was Russiagate. Trump 2.0 is Epstein Gate. That's all they've got. So, and that's what we're going to deal with over the next 12 months before these midterms. We're going to see how far the Democrats are going to go, because what else do they have? Now, right now, they've got also some concerns with the economy, but I think that in their heart of hearts, they know that that's going to be worked out over the next few months. And by the time we hit next year, 2026 is going to be a good year for the economy. But in the grand scheme of things, what do they have to rip on? Oh, Trump's a pedophile. They gave two craps the fact that we saw Joe Biden sniffing kids on television here, that he allegedly pinned a woman against an office and sexually assaulted her. I won't be too discreet or too descriptive.
She fled to Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, but we don't care about that. Don't care about that. I still vote for him. Still vote for Kamala. But we're upset about Trump here. And if they would have just eaten the frog months ago, this is a huge PR. It's a huge PR failure, in my opinion. And it's given the Democrats their Trump 2.0 fuel, which is Epstein Gate.
I know Trump plays chess, though. And what I'll be optimistic about is that this is a now golden opportunity for Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to come forward with the receipts and show and prove that it's a hoax. And if they don't, then you're right. That time period of the next
When you say hoax, what part of hoax do you mean?
Whatever the receipts show, to dispel a lot of them.
You mean implicating Trump?
Yeah, and not only an implication based on these emails, but whatever else they can make up as side branches to that. Yeah. Because this doesn't just stop at what they released and the timing of it, which I think is suspect of what they released today. They're just going to take it a step further until someone with receipts comes back and says, no, here's the evidence of why you're wrong.
And that's the thing. That brings me to the question of why. I still come back to why was it handled the way it was earlier? Mm-hmm. If Trump is not in there, And I really don't think he is, because he's the most investigated person on the planet. And
he's the only one that gave, when investigators were looking back in 09, 08, whatever, he's the only one who was met with them.
Speaker Johnson said he was an FBI informant, and then days later walked it back for some reason. But literally said Trump was an FBI informant on Epstein, and then said, oops, I didn't mean that. I mean, I don't know, take it for what it is. But the question is, why stop? And one plausible explanation is because there are Republican donors, as well as Democrat donors, as well as Republicans and Democrats that were looped into this. And, the question is, well, so you're protecting them, or what? Are you protecting the government, or protecting the intel oligarch? I mean, these are questions that people on the right, I think, legitimately have, because it was stopped. The rollout was stopped, and I mean, just go back and remember Pam Bondi having those influencers, giving them the binders. The binders had nothing new information. Then she says, oh, wait, I don't have all of the documents. I'm writing a letter to Kash Patel, who had just been confirmed. Kash Patel, I demand that you go to the New York field office. I've just been told that there's all these documents, truckloads of documents. Come on. Like, that was ridiculous. Then you had the reports of Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi getting into a screaming match because of the way it was handled. Then you had the evidence, the video of Epstein killing himself, and you had Bongino and Kash coming out and saying, I've seen the tape, he killed himself. So they released the tape, and there's a minute missing. There's 2 minutes missing.
Yep.
How does that happen? How does that happen if Bongino and Kash are actually in control? Like, assuming they're bad guys, which I don't necessarily, I'm not saying they are in that, but let's say they were trying to pull one over on us, you would never release a tape with a minute missing that was easily provable. I mean, within the first couple of hours, everybody said this tape has been edited. The tape that's supposed to prove he killed himself has been edited, and you said, I've seen the tape, he killed himself.
Everybody has egg on their face.
Everybody has egg on their face.
You're rightfully fired up.
And we're sitting here like, it's a hoax, and then the commander-in-chief calls it a hoax. I'm sorry, no. Like, it's not going away. So they're going to have to do something about it, and I don't know what they're going to have to do, but we need more transparency and more explanations.
Yeah. They need to walk into the street naked at this point, and just
to change the news cycle.
No, not literally, but they need to walk out there and be like, hey, here it is. Here's the whole bag, and then just let that be. And then 12 months from now, I mean, like, when you think about the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal, like, should that not have cost Biden the midterms, and there should have been a red wave instead of a pink dribble, right? But so much time had passed since that. It was like, hey, we moved on. And if they would just walk out into the street naked and just be like, hey, here it is. Here's our bag of guilt. Here's our big bag of trash. And then just let that be, and then continue to fix the country over the next year, the midterms will go a lot better than they will right now if you let this all trickle out.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really funny. Since January, one of the things I've been saying since January was, if the DOJ will arrest Republicans and Democrats who are guilty of crimes or treason, or then the midterms will go the Republicans' way, because people will finally figure out, yes, the uniparty's real and people are held accountable. And I know it's only 1 year in, but that hasn't happened. And we've had some huge bumps in the road. And the Epstein thing that obviously encapsulates and ensnares Republicans and Democrats. I don't think there's any way, if you look at the supposed blackmail operation he was running, I mean, this guy knew everybody. Everybody knew him. That just because you knew him didn't mean you got in his little Hugh Hefner 2.0 Playboy trap. By the way, there is something to that. Like, Hugh Hefner, Playboy Mansion, totally wired, recorded everything. It was a CIA or Intel blackmail operation. The issue is adultery used to be scandalous. 50s and 60s, you got caught in adultery, ended your political career. It was legitimate blackmail. Adultery, because we're less moral, isn't a big deal.
Everybody does it.
So they had to get statutory.
Yeah.
Okay. And so get underage girls, blackmail them with a statutory, oh, you're going to jail. Nobody wants to go to jail. That's the gold mine of blackmail. So that was the operation. I'm sorry, Eric. I cut you off. You were going to say something.
No. That you said it perfectly, in that we're just under a year in, and this is not going to go away.
Right.
We're gonna if we don't get some answers, there's going to be a really a reckoning. Come midterms, and none of us want that. That's why we're so hopeful that Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi and those in the intelligence agency and Tulsi Gabbard and others continue to come out with information and respectfully walk naked, with their clothes on, but naked. As it relates to exposing all of that stuff, and bring the receipts, and let's have a conversation about it.
Out of all of them, Gabbard is the one I trust more than Bongino and Kash at this point. I'm not saying Kash hasn't done good things by arresting, going hard against criminals. There was a report today about how Trump successfully negotiated a way for China to cut off the fentanyl going into Mexico, which is a huge deal, and Patel had a press conference about that. But Gabbard is the one. Gabbard is the linchpin in what we do know. Is it's Gabbard that went to Congressman Rick Crawford and said, hey, I want to see the 2017 report that implicated Obama as manufacturing the intelligence that led to the whole Russia hoax in the first place.
Right.
So Gabbard, and there are reports that Gabbard's been looking into things that Kash doesn't want her to look into when it comes to Charlie Kirk. And if there was any foreign influence involved, there were those reports that came out. I can't remember where. So there may be some tension there. But I do think I'm hoping that we have more transparency than we have now. In the meantime, though, on the subject of Epstein, the Democrats are going to continue to lie. So this is a guy by the name of Marco Foster. He is a lifelong Democrat.
Damn proud of it.
You see it right there, lifelong Democrat. So he posts this, Epstein survivor Anushka de Georgia, on Donald Trump. And he puts out a selected, just like the Virginia Guffrey thing, this is the same strategy. He puts out a selective clip of her being interviewed about what happened. Listen.
You met Donald Trump, is it right, through Ghislaine Maxwell?
I did, yes, and I met him on several occasions. Ghislaine Maxwell did introduce me to him, and she introduced me to him with a clear message of my being with him in the same way that she had trafficked me and brought me to Jeffrey Epstein.
End of clip. Only problem is this woman, de Georgia is what I'm going to call her, said that Maxwell introduced her to Trump in the 1990s when she was 20. She said she believed Maxwell presented her an offer of me to perhaps date Trump, but there was no impropriety on the part of President Trump. So, again, this is the same tactic.
Can you scroll back up a little bit there? Cut something off, but cut something off there, buddy.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like good on ABC News on that one for putting that.
Well, yeah.
Well, and it's a good, Philly AI News there when he did that post. Cut something off there, but he made sure that he put the ABC News. It was a screenshot from ABC News as opposed to just some random,
But this is their tactic. So it really is typical, cheap. It's predictable. It is overcomable. I mean,
he'll be sued for that. Probably
it is easy to overcome the tactics and what the Dems are doing, but not without some explanation, some walk back. And I don't know if the Trump administration will do it. I don't know if there will be some sort of walk back or new revelation of saying, hey, here you go.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, just release every single document you have.
Do it,
I mean, who cares? I mean, I don't know who you're protecting or what. Do we have to say, hey, this was a faked document and they put a poison pill in there and it's not really Trump? Or worst case scenario, who knows? Who really knows what's actually going on? But the American people, Republican and Democrat, are not going to buy it. That's not to say that you can't get them to choose between who they believe is the lesser of two evils in a year, because you will be able to.
Sure.
Because it'll be the most important election of our lifetime. Like they always say, you will be able to get people to vote. But how many people turn out? How many people don't care?
Yeah.
Right. And
how many of those we had in the most important elections of our lifetime?
Yeah.
Is it
Sean Hannity's been saying it since McCain.
Yeah. Decision 2000. You know.
Gosh. Listen, I'll tell you this.
I don't watch his show anymore, but I've definitely been saying it since then.
With as polarized, I mean, so we were polarized during Trump's first term, but Trump, we all understand that Trump had traditional Republicans that we would call like members of the swamp in his administration during his first term. Excuse me. Which, in my opinion, allowed him to get some things passed in his last 2 years, because Nancy became the speaker at the midterms, right? Because the Democrats won the midterms. Excuse me.
Bless you.
This Nancy.
Yeah, thank you.
We need to get some cough buttons in here.
That's right. So anyway, so Nancy Pelosi became the Speaker of the House. Well, the new, the redaction of the NAFTA, getting rid of NAFTA and the new MCA, MCCZA or whatever it was called. That was passed under Nancy Pelosi, but she didn't want to give him that. The Democrats didn't want to give him that prior to the midterms, and Nancy waited a long time before she gave that to him. So the USMCA, that's what it is? Yeah, the USMCA.
That's correct, yeah.
That was passed under Nancy Pelosi as the Speaker. That will not happen under Jeffries. There will not be a single solitary bill passed under Hakeem Jeffries as the Speaker, because if that is suicide. That is suicide for the Democrats to pass anything in his last 2 years. His only actions will be done with executive orders, which will be challenged in court. Yep. Every single solitary one of them. So if the Republicans want to avoid that crap, which we saw for the last 2 years of Trump's first term, if they want to avoid that, they better get their act in line. And somebody better get in Donald Trump's ear to say, eat the damn frog, Donald. Eat it. Eat this frog, get rid of this crap, and then deal with stuff for the next year, because ultimately there's going to be people who care about it. The majority of people are going to be concerned about the economy, our prices lower, affordability, all of that stuff. That is the majority of Americans. But the election will be won or lost with those fringe people who are affected by, well, is Donald Trump a pedophile? Because they keep hearing that drumbeat of he's this, he's that, he's this, he's that. And if the Republicans don't get ahead of it, it's going to be a bloodbath in 2026.
I think you're completely correct on that. And to your point, like, he knows the economy is got to get better here domestically. Obviously, it's great for Wall Street, apparently, right? Everything's doing good in Wall Street. But you go back to what Scott Bessent said. Hey, look, Wall Street's had it good for a long time. It's time for Main Street to have it good. Well, what does that look like exactly, right? I mean, does it look like $2,000 per taxpayer because of the tariffs? I mean, that's kind of what they're floating. Sure. I mean, if that's what pops into my bank account, okay. I mean, I'm not going to send it back or anything. But you go to the grocery store, things are still high. Things are down. Gas is down. Eggs are down. But things are still ridiculously expensive, and wages have not risen. And that's why Laura Ingraham, back to what we were saying, that's why Laura Ingraham said, so that if we want wages to increase, the H1-B stuff's got to go, right?
100%.
And that's the problem. Unless you can somehow get the prices back to where they were in 2020, or you're going to have to find a way to raise wages with a roaring economy. Well, it hasn't really been felt like that for Main Street. I mean, I've talked to business owners, with the way things are, and everyone says right now things are tough. I know for a fact a service industry, his revenue is down a lot. Like $500,000 this year. Now, I mean, he does a lot of business, but that's a significant chunk
sure.
of change. So people don't have the disposable income right now that you would want them to have. So anyway.
No, yeah, and I think that if Donald Trump cannot, if he's going out and saying one thing and then a month later he is directly contradicting himself, and he's directly contradicting himself with friendly fire from Laura Ingraham. I know I've talked about this and I've hammered it. I'm just so frustrated by the fact that he completely flip-flopped on this. And I think also, if you want to continue on this current path of Epstein being a hoax, nothing to see here, folks. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. That is a losing strategy for Republicans and conservatives.
And it's against Donald Trump's interest because it's going to result in him being impeached. That's why I'm like, at some point, self-preservation's got to kick in, right? I mean, we're told he's, this giant, he's got a big ego or whatever.
Right.
I mean, at some point, self-preservation is going to kick in. You look at the political reality, but, you don't know what information's actually getting to him. You don't know how, Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, filters everything through. So, Eric, I'm sorry we're going to run out of time, but before we do, I do want to get to something positive.
Okay.
Because Eric loves positivity.
Yes.
And I appreciate that, Eric, because you're
well, we're sitting here just like all complaining and griping, and Eric's like, well, I got a positive feeling about it, guys.
Yeah, I mean, you never can say that we're in a cult, like some sort of Trump cult, because we will praise when things are good and we will criticize when things are bad. Here's something that's good if you want some good news today. California to revoke 17,000 commercial driver's license following a federal audit. This is good. You sent this to me, Eric, and I think our roads are going to be safer. You look at the foreign CDL, the immigrant or H1-B CDL that killed those people in Florida, and they're having terrible wrecks all over the place. Here's an example of something good.
And last week we saw the video of the gentleman that was stopped by the Arkansas State Trooper in Arkansas on the same highway that I drive 2 or 3 days a week back and forth when I go and spend time in hospitals all throughout this region. Like, I'm on the road with fellas like that who have no business.
Dude spoke no English and was naked. Did you seen the video?
I have not.
It's incredible. I mean,
it's wild. When I think about things that keep me up at night, I try not to get consumed with a lot of the negative garbage that's going on in the world. But that's one of the things that it's like I look at my wife and kids and realize that I'm sharing the road with guys like that that have no business being out there driving an 18-wheeler that could kill me in a second.
70 miles an hour, which at that speed, considering congestion on the highway, is more dangerous than a gun.
And it's a real it's a real knock on Gavin Newsom's California system for granting 17,000 CDL licenses to folks that have no business getting them, just because those trucking companies are desperate for drivers.
The audit found that more than 1 in 4 of the sampled records did not comply with federal standards, including instances where license expiration dates extended beyond authorized work permits.
There were licenses that had no name
no
in
name
the
given.
section where there was name.
Yeah, it said no name given. What the hell are we doing?
That's not theory, or that's not I'm thinking worst case scenario. No, that happened. That's real. That's not just forecasting worst case scenarios about what this CDL situation could be. So I'm just glad to hopefully get folks like that off the road. And I saw that the numbers in Memphis, they found over 100 missing children now in Memphis as part of that operation. I mean, again, as husbands and fathers, I mean, what a shining moment for them there. I was very, very excited about that.
Ended it on a positive note.
There we go. Glad to be here as always.
Yeah.
Paul, this is a great show.
Appreciate you guys so much. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors before we go. Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, T-Guard Bail Bonds. Don't forget to call Cody Powers if you get any trouble. And Shared Chiropractic. That's all the time that we have for this edition. Make sure you like this if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or Facebook or X America News. We appreciate our digital TV audience as well, and we will see you next time.